Welcome to the Unfiltered Truth. We apologize for that brief delay in YouTube scheduling and programming. Luckily, I believe we will not be forcing you guys to wait at least another 2 hours before we start the show. And so before we get into all of the fun stuff, I just need you to sit tight for a little bit longer while we play this. So, Phil, how are you, sir? How are you today?
I can't call it. I'm proud of my swim team. Damn. You ready for some madness, Phil?
I would have it no other way. But before we get to the madness, we have just another slight programming delay because we have to bring on a good friend of mine, and I'm sure you all know him. He's from Silver and Black Today. We've gone back with the writing. We've heard the wonderful podcast with him and Mo, and I really appreciate his expertise on a situation like this. And his flair for the dramatics, and most of all, the backdrop of what he's got going on today is incredible. So without further ado, I bring to you the one, the only Scott Gulbranson.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's going on, Scott?
Hey.
I'm gonna need another hour. I got to work out the details with you guys on my contract, and then I'll come back.
So we had Scott for a little while, but we have to wait for an hour for my check to clear in order to bring him back on.
Oh, that's good stuff,
bro.
Man. I love it. Thanks for having me on. It's a crazy day, right? And a crazy week. And I know I've been going back and forth with Raider fans on Twitter all week, like you guys have. And it's an interesting situation, you know. I mean, hey, we don't know what's going on. Obviously, we'll get into it and talk about it, but always good to mix it up with you guys. Appreciate what you guys do, and always fun to climb on board with you.
For sure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely,
so,
man.
Jacoby Myers, what an introduction, and you know, I the best part of his press conference was that he didn't shy away from the elephant in his room. He was ready. He was ready for the question. That question being what happened on that play. And he had a beautiful explanation for what happened for that play. Do you remember what he said, what happened on that play?
Yeah, and you know what? I think what's incredible about it, too, and you want to see in a guy, because I know when the Raiders signed him, people are like, what? A wide receiver? Now, remember, there was only 2 wide receivers in the room, basically, when they signed him. So you could see they needed some bodies.
Mm-hmm.
But his history, obviously, Allegiant Stadium with the play, but the maturity that he showed, how he handled it, it was like, man, how could you not like the guy? Now, what he does on the field, we'll have to see. I think he's on an upswing. I think it's a good signing. I know a lot of Raider fans are like, man, another Patriot, and I understand the feelings there. But listen, the way he handled that, how could he not endear himself to the nation by that answer?
You can't. I mean, it's the ultimate of what football is. Yes, you're going to go out there, you're going to do your best, and sometimes you're going to fall. Sometimes you're going to do something incredibly stupid that it defies all logic and all reason. And your head coach is going to go up to the podium when asked about it, and mistakes are made. We obviously made some mistakes out there,
Yeah, and I know. Hey, listen, I know I just saw a comment in the comments there about my. I'm actually in the middle of a cigar lounge. Thursday nights are my night out with the guys, and so if you guys can't hear me, I will speak louder.
Tell that guy in the background. The disrespect. This the homies chilling at the look. Don't be a hater because you're not at the cigar lounge. Chill out. Jeez.
Well, and remember, it's the first night of March Madness. I'm here. There's a bunch of Phi Alpha Phi guys here.
Mhm.
I got a whole group here. So man, there's a lot of energy. It's a great night where I'm at.
I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. It's not bothering me at all. But I love a party. But yeah, but the funniest part to the whole explanation about the play was he gave the greatest team building experience and how he turned that into a positive, and all that sounded well and good and all that shit. But the explanation was the best part about it all. I don't know what happened. It just went black.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I mean, hey, who among us has not been in that situation? I don't care if it's at work, if it's with your girlfriend, your wife, whatever, and you just kind of like don't even remember what you were thinking, and you do something, and then you look back at it and you're like, what the hell was I thinking, right? I mean, this is crazy shit. But at the same time, he didn't give us flowery explanation. He didn't try to dance around the question or dance around what he did. He just said, hey, I don't know what happened. I just blanked.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
oh man, because hey, you gotta have some fun with it, right? When you do something that boneheaded, you just gotta own it and just keep pushing.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping my kids don't see it, because then when I say, hey, how come you didn't do your homework? I just blanked that. It's like Jacoby Meyer. Or I didn't clean my room.
My response to that wouldn't be appropriate for radio or YouTube. I'm gonna forget to feed you too much. But yeah. So Brandon Faison is back now. I didn't. A lot of people had mixed feelings about him, and I didn't particularly want to see him leave. I like the skills that he had and what he brought to the table. I think that some of the defenses that he got left in and the way they applied him were not as suitable to his skills as they could have been. And then a lot of times he just didn't get the help over the top that he was supposed to get, and it made it look that much worse.
Yeah, and listen, it's hard. You see a guy in a certain situation, and like you said, coaching, what was going on at the time. You don't know it. Sometimes the situation isn't right for you, and it impacts you. It impacts you mentally, especially these guys. I mean, these are professional athletes, right? And you think, well, you're getting paid to do this. You need to really do something. But at the same time, it's like to have him back with his experience. And I know it wasn't a sexy signing everybody wanted. Names like Jesse Bates and these guys that ended up going elsewhere. Yeah. And I understand that. Listen, I understand Raider Nation's like, listen, our defense is not good, and we need to strengthen the defense. And so when you see that name pop up, you're like, oh, okay, so we had him. He wasn't as good as we wanted him to be. But I think also expectations sometimes are out of line. And I think you guys watched him play. He has the ability. I think he helps this team in coming back. Do the Raiders need a hell of a lot more up the middle? Of course they do. But I don't at all fault them for bringing him back. And I think they're better for having him there.
No, yeah, because if you look from the bright spots from him, I mean, literally, he had a couple of interceptions. I think he had 3, 4. So you look at that, it was just he needed to clean up a few things with his technique. And I think we got some guys that are on the staff that can help clean that up and make him into something more presentable. Not looking at just straight raw talent. We're looking at somebody that, okay, he can be a consistent guy that we have on our depth.
Right. Yeah, and I think too, the thing to remember is while there are big splashes in free agency, and yeah, hey, everybody loves those. In reality, when you're building a team, free agency is a lot about depth, right? And then you go, especially with this team, they need young talent. They got to nail the draft, guys. They got to, because of the last 4 years, they have to nail the draft. And so I wouldn't give up yet on this defense being much improved, depending on what they do draft. I also think, a lot of people were talking about Hunter Renfrow perhaps on the outs and being shopped around. But I also think that they're compiling picks because they may, and Mo and I talked about this on our show earlier today, they may be compiling some of those picks and looking to make a deal for a veteran defender who's on another team already, who's not a free agent. And so I think we got to let that play out. I know people aren't happy with me saying patience, patience, patience. And listen, this front office has made mistakes. And of course, Josh McDaniels has a lot to prove. But at the same time, I think they might be cooking something else, and maybe they're going after somebody else that's a veteran on a roster who might be available in the trade circuit.
I know, because Ziegler just ran out of his office with the biggest smile he's ever had since the Adams signing. There's a lot going on here, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of unknown knowns. But to me, the draft is the biggest thing of how it's going to go. You look at the picks and the cost that's associated with it. You got 12 picks for $15 million on a team that is, I'm not going to quite say up against it in terms of the salary cap, but there's not as much flexibility as you would think there should be. The $30 million in dead cap is the largest reason for that, but they currently have 55 guys on the roster, and even if they kept all of their picks, that only leaves them at about 67. And so that would do a great job of getting them low cost talent. How much of it is going to be able to be used remains to be seen. But I also think that they are planning a move as well. I don't necessarily know if it's going to be to spring for a veteran defensive player or if it's going to be able to have the freedom and flexibility to maneuver themselves to go and get their guys earlier in the draft. Maybe not quite the first round, but what they should be able to do in the second, third, and fourth should be incredible.
Yeah, and I think, and you guys know this because you talk about it all the time, I think people underestimate, especially in this draft, the talent that will be there in the third and fourth round, especially when you're talking about on defense. This is a very deep cornerback draft. We know the Raiders need help at cornerback. They need help at safety too, and it's not as deep in that. It's not as good as the safety draft, but it is a very deep cornerback draft. There's also it's also deep up front. So I think there's an opportunity for them to do it. Remember where the Raiders found, I know it's the previous regime, one of the great things that they did do, which was Max Crosby in the fourth round. So it's not impossible to find those guys. And you go back to Mike Mayock's now infamous statement about, hey, where you do your job as a general manager is in the third and fourth round. That's where you find guys. And to me, that's where we're going to see. What are they going to do there? And what are they going to be able to put together? The other thing is, too, you saw them restructure Max's contracts. There still could be some other – I'm not talking massive amounts of money, but I think there might be some of that also in play here with some of the other players. And maybe even a Chandler Jones, if they can get him to free up some of that money after the disappointing year, then sure. It's like, listen, there's a lot of things they can do here. And I'm not giving them a pass. I know I've had people tell me I'm on the payroll because I'm being optimistic and all that jazz. But
You're not?
Is, no, I wish. If I was, I'd be in Tahiti or somewhere, and there'd be palm trees behind me.
Right?
But yeah, exactly. But what I'm saying though is that there's a lot of things that can be done here, and we all want the Raiders to get better. We all want to see them make moves that we all feel, especially fans, right? Fans are Raider fan. There's no better fan in the world than a Raider fan, and they just want to see that their team's going in the right direction. And I know that's one of the things that people are frustrated by, but we got to give it more time. It just started, and there's going to be other things that happen. And I think that I don't think the Raiders are anywhere near done in maneuvering this roster even before the draft.
No. No, they're not. I really genuinely don't see it. Who else do we want to talk about? So much to talk about today. So many ways to just Marcus Epps took the podium today. I thought he'd be a little bigger than what I what I
He didn't have the pad. He didn't have the pads on, Phil.
And I've seen and when you get to see some of these guys in person, you get to really get a feel for that, the size of these guys. Like, Austin Eckler was tiny. Like, when I see him bowling through guys, it's like, yo, this dude and then saw him in person. I was like, well, this dude is not that big.
Yeah, no, and listen, I think with Epps, right, when I saw that signing, when it came across, I was like, okay. And then I looked at it, and then we had on our show Brian Baldinger, who I know you guys have talked to before, and he really likes him. He says, hey, this guy is sneaky getting better, and he was a good acquisition. Baldy had a lot of critical things to say about what the Raiders are doing, but he also liked that signing. He also mentioned Jermaine Illuminor. I think that's a guy you got to wrap up. And I think that's one of the storylines, guys, that in Raider Nation is a little bit false. And I keep challenging people on is that offensive line. It was maligned that, yes, they did not do enough last offseason to improve it. And so it struggled, especially early. But if you look at what they did as the year went on, they got a lot better. And you got to give it to Jermaine Illuminor. And I think he just tweeted out, like, in the last hour, hey, we're going to get better, which hopefully means that he's close to signing back with the Raiders. But he's got to get more consistent. He got more consistent as the year went along. And so that's a positive. I know there's negatives and people aren't happy. Some people aren't happy, Phil, with the Garoppolo signing and all that stuff. But at the same time, I think there are signs that they're doing the right things. It's just we're being impatient, and I get it.
Wolf Scott, I'll have you know, Garoppolo has not signed. Okay.
True.
So we'll get to that in a second. But
by the way, guys, did you see? It was one of the funniest things I saw. But in Nevada, prostitution is legal if the county population. It's not legal in Vegas. If the population in a county is under 50,000 people, you can have a bordello. And there's the famous one called the Bunny Ranch. And I don't know if you saw the tweet. The Bunny Ranch tweeted about Jimmy Garoppolo, which I thought was hysterical. Maybe he's holding out for an endorsement deal with them before he signs.
I'm gonna leave that one alone, Scott. But that was quality programming there. I wish somebody needs to chop that up. We went out there to the ranch.
I cannot confirm.
Frequent purveyor pass. Like, what do we call that?
Oh man, whatever it takes to perform on the field, give it to him.
Hey, I would look. I'll go there. I said this could be a good thing for Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy likes to bang porn stars. He's in Vegas. If Jimmy wants to keep banging porn stars, he's gonna have to win.
Yeah,
porn stars ain't banging losers, Jimmy.
Yeah, and I think Raider fans, again, if it gets him on the field and he stays healthy, just don't pull any muscles. That's all you got to make sure.
Right.
I mean, if you're a young stallion, you shouldn't be pulling no muscles, bro.
We wanted a quarterback that drank and chased women. We got one.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves Ken Stabler. Everybody loves Ken Stabler, right? I mean, hey, he did it back in the day.
Yep, he just won.
Scoring on and off the field, never stops. Scoring machine.
Yeah, that was
Spillane. Now watching Spillane was interesting because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, how much he's terrible in coverage and what he does and what he doesn't do. And to me, for everybody who was asking for Drew Tranquil, that's kind of the comparison that I see there. I don't see that he's going to be asked to drop in a lot of coverage. People have talked about spread him out. I think that he's primarily going to be a blitzer and a flat run support and a flat guy. Those are going to be his responsibilities. And there was some talk that he was going to be the green dot wearer and the leader on defense, which leads me to believe, one, that Denzel Perryman is not coming back, and two, that they figure him to have a much more prominent role than to just be a run defender only.
Yeah, and I think if you look at, a lot of fans will go to a stat page and they'll say, "Oh, what has this guy done?" But if you look at folks who really break down film around the league, including Baldy, who we had on, these guys say, "Hey, look, he had a really, really good under the radar year in Pittsburgh." And so I think that you have to give these guys the opportunity. And I know, listen, remember, we all got excited about Corey Littleton, and that didn't pan out. So I get it. I get why people are skeptical, because it's not the big names that everybody wants. This wasn't a plus free agent that they could go sign. And especially Raider fans are so hungry to have a good linebacking core for once that they were disappointed by it. But I think, again, free agency, get your depth, get your guys who are going to be there, that are going to help strengthen that defense. And then either through trade and, of course, through the draft, build it up some more. There's some good linebackers in the draft as well that are better guys in coverage. So you're looking at that. I think you have to look at it through that lens and start to break it down. And I know that's hard for fans, because they're not going to spend as much time as some of us looking at everybody across the league and understanding the strengths of certain guys. So it'll be interesting to do that. They got a lot more work to do, again, on the entire defense and at linebacker. But yeah, his another good press conference. That doesn't translate to playing on the field, but you can tell the type of guys by what these guys said at the podium, at the very least, that this coaching staff and this front office are bringing in. And for now, until they get on the field, you got to at least feel better about who they are after hearing from them.
Oh, for sure. You got something for that, Jones?
Nah, not on this one. I mean, overall, hey, look, overall, I can say with Robert Spillane, he hits hard and he'll knock your tooth out. I hadn't heard about that shit. He knocked somebody's tooth out. I was all right. I'll take that.
Squares up, hits them with form tackling. That's for a team that tackling seemed to be an issue. You need guys like that. And from what I've seen from some of the guys that they brought back, you got some thump. Yeah. You can't play defense with no thump. If the middle is not a scary place, you're gonna get your ass beat.
Yeah, and not only that, but you know what? The other thing too is you need some dogs, right? You need some guys who want to get dirty, who want to hit hard. And I think even some of the guys the Raiders have had that have been. I mean, look at Max Crosby, perfect example. That guy's motor never shuts off. It never shuts off. Yeah. And so you want other guys like that. Now, he might not be an all-pro linebacker for this team, but at the same time, you got to be able to find guys who are going to take it up a notch and are going to be badasses. And I think that's what's lacked on that Raider defense. Now, when Jonathan Abram came out of the draft, everybody loved him because of that, right? He was a hard hitter. He wasn't going to do that. He didn't pan out for the Raiders, but that attitude mixed with smart football on the field is what you need. And Spillane, I think, definitely checks that box as well. So, and I see a comment there, Black Albedo. I'm smoking an Illusion 42G. He wanted to know about. He's a cigar guy, so I'm telling him what I'm smoking.
Yes, I haven't had a stick since the Cuban my parents brought back on their trip.
Nice.
Save myself for the finer things, Scott.
You know what? I actually, me too. I sleep with a Cuban. She's my wife, but she's.
But hey, there you go. Just make sure you stay on the good side. I hear them neckties are bad. You don't want one of those.
No, she's very good with a knife. And our second date was at the shooting range, and nice. I was like, okay, I'm never cheating on this woman, never. Nope. And that was back when we were dating.
Mm-hmm. Said well versed, and you've handled this before. I've seen. No stranger.
Absolutely, man.
Would it be? Let's see. That we like the David Off Series 2000.
Great cigar. You can't go wrong with the Davidoffs. Man, I'll tell you what. We could do a separate show just on cigars.
Right.
But good choice, Raiders perspective.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let's move it along and keep it pushing. We handled the safety. Tillery. Jerry Tillery is a very interesting case. I liked what he did in terms of pass rush and what he added to the defensive line up until the time that he was doing some dumb ass shit. Some straight dumb ass shit. I was like, look, now we can argue about what the penalty should have been, but bro, what the fuck are you doing? Why would you even go over there and slap the ball out of his hands on third down when you can get off the field and you just gave them the game?
Yeah, and it's interesting because remember, they signed him after the Chargers waived him, and he comes in that first game and it's like lights out. He had a great game, and then he played well, as you guys know, in spots because you watch the game film, you know. But then he kind of tailed off, and why? And I think that re-signing him wasn't just about a body. I think clearly Patrick Graham saw something there, and how they use him might be different this year. That's what I'm interested to see, if they bounce him a little bit around on that line and see what he can do. Because coming out of college, obviously, you know, he was a highly ranked player. The Chargers loved him, and then he lost favor. So can he find it? He comes in and they sign him. It's a cheap deal overall. So we'll have to see what he does. But, you know, they got to find the mix up front. That's the problem with this team. And you guys saw it with these teams that go deep in the playoffs, man. You got to win in the trenches. And if Tillery's part of that, great. I think he'll be a role player. I think they're gonna get some young bucks in there, and then we'll see, as we talked about earlier, if they're able to maybe swing a deal for somebody else who can bolster that line.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, having Tillery within that rotation, because we still forget that we still have Blah Nichols, these guys that you drafted. So having there, that's a big plus. I got a feeling that the Raiders might make a trade and get a veteran D tackle. So, but they're still young.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know what I'm talking about. I got a strong feeling you guys are on track with it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm thinking. I mean, listen, clearly with some of the moves they made, you think, well, are they going to move up to get a quarterback? Could be. Or I think the more realistic scenario is that they're doing that to find somebody who's going to help on that defense, because you just don't know what other teams are doing and who's available and what the phone conversations are with Dave Ziegler and folks around the league, because they know they got to do that. Listen, the offense, no matter what you think of Garoppolo, the offense is still in a good spot. It can get better. It now needs a tight end, clearly, and we can talk about Waller. But the situation is you got to figure something out. This team has to have some toughness, some meanness, and they got to increase that pass rush. I mean, how many years have we been sitting here and talking about the lack of a pass rush outside of Max Crosby?
Since the day Gruden traded away.
Oh yeah, him. Yeah, exactly. And you know, there's some other, and I think they're not done at end either. You know, with what happened with Chandler Jones. Look, they're going to eat the contract. Hopefully, they can somehow restructure a little bit if he's willing to do that. But the other thing is, you know, what do they do at end? There's some good young players in the draft. There's also some familiar names out there. They brought Faison back. Unique Ngakwe's out there still. And is he a guy you bring back? I don't know. But I think that they need to figure it out, and they need to get some bodies in there, and not has-beens, but guys who they feel like have enough left in the tank. Or as Phil Jones said, you know, a young guy that you can go out and grab with some compensation, whether it be draft or other players.
I think that, and especially in this day and age, defensive end is what kind of like, well, hold on, let me walk that back and not say that. There are a lot of available defensive ends in this draft, premium defensive ends and specialty defensive ends. If you just need a guy to rush the pass, and Ziegler has spoken to that extent about the scouting department and how they approach that business of scouting and how they deploy the players that they scout and what situations and where. And there's a lot of guys in this draft that you can pick it, that you can choose and kind of draft for situations and situational awareness, which is pretty much the difference of the Raiders and winning. Is that in key crucial situations they don't execute, they don't properly realize their assignments and do what they need to do in order to make it happen. Now, can you solve that by getting a veteran? I don't necessarily think you need a veteran. You have Max. Max is the veteran now. Now you need somebody who's able. And for whatever reason, Malcolm Kuntz is hit or miss. He gets on, he makes a play, he gives one back. There's not a lot of consistency there. But if you get one of these young guys, and you brought in the linebacking coach from Baltimore, who's now coaching D line, who specializes in outside rushers and edge guys. And so if you take that and then you look at the raw ability of what's available, you can get a guy like Yaya Diaby, whose numbers are off the charts. And if you can take him and do something with that, then now you have the next best thing, instead of spending all that money on a Frank Clark and giving him 20, 30, 40 million up front and getting virtually the same level of production.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said, too, for finding a young guy who's hungry, just like Max was, right? Somebody who's got something to prove, who wants to come in. It's not going to cost you a ton of cash, but is motivated to make his way in the league. And like you said, Phil, there's a lot of guys in this draft who I think do that, right? Yeah, you got your premium guys, but you got your role guys as well. And so how they patch it together, listen, the Raiders aren't going to go from 29th in defense to a top 5 defense in one season. I don't think that's realistic. Can they go from 29 to 15 if they do the right moves? Absolutely they can. And if you can get a top 15 defense and the offense clicks like it can with Devontae, and if Garoppolo is doing what he can do, then you're cooking, right? Then you have a situation where this team can get better and improve on what it did last year, and really get the opportunity to get Raider Nation excited that the team is headed in the right direction. Look, I hate to break it to folks, they're not going to win the Super Bowl next year, but can they surprise people if they make the right moves and get in the playoffs? They can. It's going to be tough in the AFC, I'm not going to lie, but if they get the right kids, the right mix, the right chemistry, I think they can get better.
And I think that more than anything, they need to figure out a way to get healthy and stay healthy. That has been the largest issue I've seen with the defense for the past couple of years, is that they start out looking decent, like a real actual decent defense. They play well, and then guys just start getting hurt. They start dropping off. When they get back off the injury list, they're not the same. Like you take Nate Hobbs, for instance. I expected really, really big things from Nate Hobbs last year until he broke his wrist. And then when he came back, it's like, who the fuck is this? That's not the Nate Hobbs that I saw before he got hurt. Not even close.
Yeah, and Trayvon Moore too, right? The same thing. I think, I went on in the preseason. Mo and I were like, we crowned him. He was going to be a Pro Bowl player, maybe even better than that. And we saw him get hurt, and he fell off a little bit. We saw him get lost in coverage sometimes. Now they had a new defense. So, okay, you can give a little bit of that, especially earlier in the year. But the fact that he didn't get stronger towards the end of the year, and then he dealt with the injuries as well, was not good. So yeah, why they're not able to stay healthy might have been a mix of who they had. The players they had just weren't going to do it, or weren't consistently going to stay healthy. But they got to figure that out, because you got to keep guys on the field. The availability is the biggest thing, and they're going to have to get. And that's why I think going young, even though we're talking about some young players who are injured, I think going young is going to help them with that too, if you get these young kids in there.
Thoughts on that, Jones?
I think, speaking of younger players that were on the team from last year, another guy that, I expected to see a little bit more from him, especially being behind Chandler Jones, Malcolm Kuntz. I expected him to be that guy, like, okay, he's into year 2. We saw some flashes in the first season, and then it just went like, where is he? And when he got on the field, it was like, where is he? I think this is probably a season where it's like make or break for him, but he's going to have to step up. But I mean, our new defensive line coach from out of Baltimore and out of Miami, I think he'll be able to get a little bit more out of him this year.
Yeah, and I think that's what the combination is, right? It's the players got to get better, but also the coaching's got to get better. And clearly, they weren't happy with the coaching last year. Patrick Graham made those changes, and so you got to expect that they're going to do that and get part of the problem with Kuntz, I think. Oh, and Biff Malibu, good name. Good point. He's bulked up. Yeah. What we've heard. So I think that's part of it. I think you've seen some. You saw Max Crosby. When Max Crosby was drafted, I thought it was not a good pick because if you look at him in college, he was so small.
He looked like feeding children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was so small, especially from the waist down. And look what he did. He worked. I mean, you got to give him all the credit because he worked his tail off, and he bulked up. He got bigger, but he didn't just get bigger. He got more agile and he got faster. And you see what happened. So I think with Kuntz, you got to see the same thing.
Definitely, and it's taken him a little bit longer to do it than other guys. I know that Khalil Mack was able to put on some weight pretty quickly, not necessarily in the first year, but I want to say in between 2 and 3 when Del Rio got there, he put on a good deal of weight pretty quick in an off season. And that was one of the things that I said about Kuntz was that he had about 15 to 20 that he had to put on in order to properly play the position the way that it needed to be played.
Yeah, and I wonder too if, again, different regime now. If you look at, that's why I'm so fascinated to see what we see next month in the draft. Are they going to draft guys that aren't guys that have potential and that need to be bulked up? Right now, there's guys like that. I'm not saying you don't take guys like that, but are they going to go with guys that are much more pro ready? Guys that, yeah, they might need to bulk up a little bit. They need the pro coaching. They need to be in the pro weight room. But are they going to get guys that are ready to go now versus some of the guys that Gruden got, which were more project guys? I mean, we all had the head scratchers with some of their draft picks, and we see why now because they all had serious flaws that can be overcome in some cases. But do they go with guys that are more pro ready? And I want to say yes, that's what they're going to do. And so when we see that draft on that weekend. That's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to be looking for, are these kids that they're selecting kids, they might be a little bit raw in technique, but from a body perspective, from a weight perspective, from a strength perspective, much more pro ready.
For sure. And I'm seeing in Biff is continuing to show all the progress that they've made. And
guys put on weight, or lost weight. Now, I say one thing that caught my eye. What's today? Today's 6th. Yesterday, I saw a tweet from Neil Farrell Jr. I have something to prove, and I'm going to prove it.
Yeah, and that's the attitude you want, right?
The defense, right?
Right.
That's going to rub me the wrong way if I'm in his position. So it's time for me to get my shit together and show that I'm the guy that you drafted and that you wanted to succeed. I want myself actually to succeed, but I'm going to have to put in a little bit more work. I believe he can do it. When I talked to Coach O at the Senior Bowl, when I was looking at him, he said, that man can get it done. Now, Coach O ain't going to lie to me, even though he talk fast as hell, but he ain't going to lie to me because the motherfucker sat there and ate gumbo with me, daggone it. So, from one gumbo level to another gumbo level, Neil Jr., I believe he can get it done.
How do we not have you eating gumbo with Coach O on video? Because that would be,
oh my God, man,
that would go viral, baby.
That would be a sight right there. That would. I'm gonna let him off easy. I'm not even gonna play him. I was about to go there, but I'm gonna let you off easy, Jones. I'm not gonna do you like that.
but you know what, Jones, you bring up a good point, and that is, what is the expectation in the building, right? Because we saw the survey that came out that showed that the Raiders coaching staff wasn't well liked and all that. And so now a lot of those guys are gone, right? So you're not aiming with the program. And for some guys, like Derek Carr is a good example. For some guys, it wasn't the right fit. It was not the right fit on both sides. And I think with some of these defenders and some of these guys, and like I said about Jermaine Illuminor tweeting out earlier that he's going to get more consistent, he's going to be there with Colton Miller, and they're going to be the best side, the both best left side in the AFC. That shows you that they're on board and they understand the challenge and what's expected of them. And to me, that's the first hurdle you have to get over. You have to get guys. Listen, some guys are talking trash about Josh McDaniels. That's a little concerning, some guys who used to play for him. But at the same time, is his job to be liked by the players, or is his job to get the players to a point where they play for him and for each other more than anything, which you hit on, which is a huge point, and get them ready to be a tough football team that can win games and get better.
Oh, absolutely. I need you guys to come in, do your job. I'm not here. See, a lot of people forget that buddy act, that buddy shit does not help. It doesn't get shit done. And as a fan base, that people should already understand right away that shit didn't help in 2017. It hasn't helped within the 9 years of keeping one guy, because you could have moved on a long time ago. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work in the front office either. So,
no, and that's the thing. It's like you hear about players, coaches, and there's a way to be a player's coach, right? There's a balance. You have to find a balance.
It's that thin line. It's like I can still be a player's coach, but I'm not going to be like, well, I'm going to make it a little easier for you on this and make it a little. I got to be fair. I got to be fair and balanced. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and
all it is being fair and balanced as the head coach.
Right, and the key is, and I see it in Biff's comment, he brings up another good point, which is the guys in the building, you have to get them better. Listen, what has happened to this organization over the last 30 years? Constant churn, in and out, guys in and out, and that hasn't worked, has it? Because you know what? You get guys in, and maybe they need to do better, and you develop. That's what good teams that win championships eventually do, is they get guys in. And look, the Patriot way, which Baldy said today, he said, look, I don't believe in the Patriot way. It doesn't work. It works in New England. It doesn't work outside New England. And that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about, though, when I talk about the Patriots, is you get the most out of a guy. I mean, how many small little white wide receiver slot dudes came through New England that nobody cared about? Wes Welker, Amendola, all those guys. Other teams gave up on them. They got them in the building. They got them in the building in the right system, and they helped them improve. So that's what you got to look for, especially in today's NFL, managing the roster and especially the economics of it, is you can't have a bona fide star like Devontae Adams at every position. You can't afford to do that. So you have to get the most out of a guy. And Jones, you and I were talking before we went on air. You coach kids. I coached youth sports for 24 years, and even with little kids, you see it. You see a kid he's not going to be the best athlete, or she's not going to be the best athlete, but can you get the most out of them so they can achieve all that they can? And that's a massive point. And that falls on the coaching staff. And listen, I have high negative feelings about Josh McDaniels, but at the same time, he has other coaches on that staff. He talked about the defensive improvements. If they can get more out of what they have, supplement it with some free agents and young kids coming in from the draft, then you can get better.
High negative feelings.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want you to, I'm paying attention, because as I heard that you kept on rolling nice and smooth, it said high negative feelings. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that going on in Raider Nation right now. I can see the plan, but we've gone nearly, and we'll continue to put this on delay for at least another 5 minutes or so. So I'll hold off on that. But the overall direction of what we've seen and the way that this roster has been torn down and dare I say unnecessarily. Now that I know you need to make cap cuts in order to make certain things happen, in order to start distributing resources to the defense when your offense is $100 million offense and your defense is coming in at 60 million, and you're wondering why your defense sucks. Well, there's a $40 million gap in disparity there. But taking away from what were supposed to be strengths and saying that you couldn't win when these very same strengths are what propelled you to the playoffs makes you look like an idiot. And
and I said it towards the end of the season, middle of the season actually. I used this term. I said, listen, Josh McDaniels has been committing coaching malpractice, and he was. There's no way you can defend Josh McDaniels' performance last year. You just can't. And so I'm not someone here making excuses for the coach, because he made plenty of mistakes. I think all the way around. Patrick Graham, for example. Patrick Graham, people forget he came in. He really only had 1 year as a defensive coordinator before he got to Las Vegas, right? And so the jury is still out on him too. So there's a lot to prove in this coming year. The difference, though, is, and this is where I caution fans, which is, look, you can't judge any of the coaching staff on where they were and then do they get to the Super Bowl in 1 year. You have to see improvement. And to me, that's what I want to see. I want to see improvement on both sides of the ball. Obviously, on offense, it's not as much as the talent as much as it is the coaching, play selection, game management, which was terrible, by the way. We saw that. But then on the defense, too, Patrick Graham now, he's had no bodies. So now if they give him bodies and they spend money on the defense, which they need to do, and then you see subpar performances again, then I think you start to see the answer come clear and say, wow, that's not really working out. And again, I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just saying there has to be improvement. You get somebody in there, you got to give them the chance. And if they have a chance and they have bodies and they improve that defense from a talent perspective and the result is the same, I think you have your answer.
No, I agree. I mean, it's execution on both ends from the staff and from the players. And you look at what Graham had. Guys were dropping like flies last year. Turn water into wine? You can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and you heard a lot of people fairly criticize the signing of Chandler Jones because of his performance. But the writing was kind of on the wall with his age. But I remember, and I'm sorry, I'm just gonna make a wild guess. I want to say 85% of Raider Nation out there, at least the people we hear from, were excited about Chandler Jones. So the signing of Chandler Jones, I don't have a problem. It didn't work. It just didn't work. And every NFL team goes through that. They sign a free agent, and guess what? They end up not performing like they thought they would, or up to their paycheck. And so with that situation, does Dave Ziegler, did he make a bad choice? He did. But at the time he made the choice, I can see why he did it, and I don't fault it.
Right.
No, and this is about the same with me, because I look at Chandler Jones' track record. I mean, he's always been quiet. Nobody has really made like a big wow for him. But at the track record, this guy's getting double-digit sacks every season. He was actually leading the NFL. So when you look at something like that, you're just like, hey, I can't go wrong with this, can I? So you go in and get him, but it didn't work out.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a perfect assessment. I think so. Hey man, take it easy. So yeah, I mean, I think that's it. And I think, you look back, a lot of people have been saying, well, these guys lied to us. They said they weren't going to rebuild. But at the time, I believe, and you guys don't have to agree, and the fans out there don't have to agree, but I believe at the time when they took over, they believed they could get what they needed to out of Derek Carr. They believed Darren Waller would get back on the field and play like we thought he could. They believed Chandler Jones would be a difference maker on the other side from Max Crosby. And guess what? In all three cases, it didn't happen. And those are three important guys on your roster. If those three guys don't do what you need them to do, it's not going to be a good year.
No, you got huge holes, which brings us to Jimmy Garoppolo and this fiasco that we have. I think Tayshaun Reed has said it best, and when I'm quoting Tayshaun Reed, we're doing something has gone awry. The Raiders are optimistic they'll be able to get a deal done with Jimmy Garoppolo, but the alternatives, if they can't, are frightening. Now, I forgot who it was that said that the Raiders had come to terms with Jimmy Garoppolo on Monday. And as we spoke earlier before we started the show, he's been in the building since 9 o'clock this morning. Press conference was scheduled for 12. They sent everybody home at a quarter to 3, I believe. That's 6 hours of him being at 6+ hours of him being almost 8 of him being in the building and nothing getting finalized. And to me, that's for what we've heard, sources say nothing to worry about here. Small contractual little tidbit. We'll have us a nice little press conference tomorrow. Everything will be kumbaya and copacetic. I'm calling cap, Scott. I'm calling cap.
Hey,
the timing don't add up.
I don't blame
Leslie Nelson. Remember Leslie Nelson, Naked Eye?
Yeah.
No, Naked Gun.
Yeah.
Everything's fine here. Don't worry. Everything's fine.
Worry.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Shit in the background. Yeah.
Like everybody looking like,
yeah. There's a burning building behind you. Yeah. Yeah. And listen, guys, I think, in closing, listen, it's definitely concerning. And you're right. You come to terms on a Monday. Here we are sitting at the end of Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Pacific, and they don't have it wrapped up. I know a lot of rumors came out early when this started, when the delay of the press conference is like, is it a physical issue? Of course, the Raiders aren't going to tell us that if it was.
Right.
But whatever the reason, it's concerning. And if we don't hear tomorrow by mid-morning Pacific time that they got this thing wrapped up and we're seeing a press conference at noon, I would be even more concerned heading into the weekend. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but Deshaun's right. I mean, look, if they don't wrap this up, then they're in a big bind, and this thing could go south really fast.
Could it go south, or could it be a sign for something better?
Could it fly? Could it sprout wings and fly us to the promised land?
Are you talking about number 8? What are you talking
about? Like a raven in the sky.
I love it. But you know what? It crossed my mind that wait a minute, are they doing something else? And what side is backing it? What side has cold feet? If there's cold feet, what side has cold feet? Is it Garoppolo's side or is it Dave Ziegler? Who knows? You're right. And for fans, it sucks because you got to go to bed tonight and not know what the heck's going on. But at the same time, they got to get quick resolution. I mean, it can't go past tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. This isn't an Aaron Rodgers situation, but for the Raiders, it's just as important.
Absolutely. So I know you're up against it with closing time out there. So you got anything else for Scott before he dips out of here, Jones?
Because Scott was hitting on every point basically was ready to hit on, and great minds think alike.
That's why Scott's the man. Said just don't have him hit you with one of his teasers mid-show, right? Get you going for a point you're getting ready to make, and just pull the carpet out from underneath you. Scott, I'm swearing at you, goddammit, Scott. I was pumped, ready to go, and we'll be back. I
appreciate you guys, man. It's been fun. Look forward to doing it again.
Right on, Scott. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Gulbransen, Silver and Black today. You can catch him on with Mo Moton, the great Bleacher Report, fabulous Mostradamus, purveyor of everything except for fine desserts.
And cheesecake. Oh, God, yeah.
That would be fine desserts.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, avocado ice cream eating mother.
Of all the drops that we need to have, we got to get that one. I got to be able to pull that up and just let that flow. Let me tell you something about you, avocado ice cream eating motherfucker, and you ruined Gronk's career.
You know what? It's actually on my fucking other phone. I gotta find what my nephew did with my other. So usually during free agency, I break out 2 phones. Because you gotta save that battery life, homie.
Oh, you do.
Yeah, I couldn't find it today because homeboy decided to take that other phone.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. And I got some contacts I gotta get out of that damn phone.
I'm gonna need that back play. You're gonna have to bring that back. J-Main,
like, oh my God.
This ain't Jermaine Illuminor, is he? Done blocked me and showed up on the show. I know that can't be the truth. I know that can't be the truth. That would be something there.
I'm gonna say a few things. So currently, and now you see the Raiders have only it's Adams, Meyer, what was it? Dorsett and Renfro. That's 4 wide receivers on the roster. So that was the reason why the Raiders went and got a Jacoby Myers, because you were having gaping holes there. People that were like, why the fuck did we get a damn wide receiver? Well, how many receivers you got on the roster? Like, seriously, I mean, I hope you guys now understand the Raiders know what the fuck they doing. It may not be what you want, but motherfucker, we didn't have shit.
No.
And yes, Dorsett was rocking that speed. And when they gave Philip Dorsett the opportunity to come in and start those 4 games, that was what, 20 catches for 200 plus yards and 4 touchdowns. So again, that's pretty fucking good.
And his name is Philip. I mean, he's destined for great.
I mean, he's a Philip.
He will be on this show. When I don't know how I get him here. Hopefully
somebody hold my beer. I probably get something done.
Pleasant capacities. Otherwise, we might have to drag him kicking and screaming. On some real RNS type stuff. Do you think A-Rod called Adams and said, "Get me there"? Listen. Anything is possible. Nothing's for sure.
It's really interesting.
The way that he made his statement on McAfee's show, the list of demands that have suggestions of players to be acquired. I can't wait to see them acquire all those players and then him not show up. You want to talk about a fiasco and have an egg on your face? That would be a situation. So I don't have nothing against the Jets, but I still would love to see it. That would be awesome. But Christmas, a little light reading for Woody.
And as I'm tweeting this right now, look. Everybody's saying, why are we the Patriots West? I mean, you have multiple guys that came from the Patriots. Aren't they going to want their own kind of guy from their philosophy, their tree and shit? That's almost like saying if John Gruden came out of Green Bay and he went to Philly with Andy Reid, because Andy Reid came from Green Bay, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What guys were they getting? Green Bay kind of players, right? Am I right or am I wrong?
Players familiar with the system and style of offense that you've become accustomed to running, executing, and teaching.
And I go and look at this. What did Andy Reid do when he went to Kansas City? He brought in some Philly guys. Maybe he mixed it up with some Green Bay guys. If I know guys that understand that
brought in Gruden grinders. I mean, let's talk about Gruden grinders.
Yeah. So I mean, people need to stop looking at that and just look at it as this is my philosophy. This is what we look for to fill in to this, and this. Hey, I'm going to get that guy. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So, I mean, look, I want to have this staff get what they need. I want them to have guys that damn sure they can plug in and get the job done. Everybody says, and going back to John Gruden, I want better fucking execution. We got to have better execution on the staff and better execution on the for your players. So I also say this. You brought in, what's his name? You brought in Scott Turner to help with the passing game. We had a problem with the game plan and bringing in a guy like that to help with the passing game. He's the one that's going to be looking at strategy. He's like, okay, look, we can pass on these few plays here, on this here. Let's go with the run with this one. They're going to meet and they're going to collaborate. See, it's not going to just be Josh McDaniels just handling everything. He's going to just pass to somebody else as well. So it's not just going to be him handling play calling and shit. He's got your passing game coach, and then you have your offensive coordinator that he has listed down. So, I mean, fuck. I don't see him trying to mess up this year. I think he's trying to say, if I'm going to do things right, I can't be a fucking bonehead and try to have full control over this, this, and this. You and hiring guys just to have them sit and stand.
Not only that, but and Biff once again. I haven't seen Biff in here before, but make sure you subscribe and come back.
Yes.
I like you.
I need you in the comment section. I love that.
Keep coming back. But what I think is that he's finding a way to break it down and find guys who can maybe figure out a different way to explain it to the players in a way that they understand it, a way that they grasp it, so that we can move forward collectively a little faster than what they did last season. All that you see that they went through position coaches and tried to strengthen what they were doing with lower position coaches, and they promoted some guys, assistants, and hopefully it pays off, because what they're shaped up to do a youth overhaul. And the most important thing about a youth overhaul is finding guys who can teach the information that they need to know in a way that they can retain it and execute it.
The key word. What's that key word besides the cat walking in the background?
No, they're all over the place. Execute.
No,
and teach, retain, and execute. It's a process. It's more than just a word. Because in order for
that
them
is the key word. Yes. It's with any sport. A lot of people think that coaching is you go do that, you go do that. I still need to teach you so you can comprehend and understand what to do. I can't just lead you out there and you not fully understanding. With this job, you're still going to be teaching no matter what. We have to make sense. And if I got to do it like football for dummies, so help me God, I want everybody to understand how this shit goes instead of listening to some.
And that's why we had to stop you, Phil, because you are on a roll of making too much goddamn sense. What you are saying is the gospel. It's intelligence. It's provocative, mind-blowing football knowledge that not everybody is ready to just soak in and just let into their lives and their brains, because they can't. It's too much football. It's maximum football overload. You're making too much sense. We've been told to stop by the comment section because he's on overload.
No. I think they want to hear it. I don't think he's saying to stop. I think he wants to hear it. He wants to hear that we're making too much sense. People love to hear that, so they're not walking in nonsense.
Speaking of the classroom film room, we got some stuff coming up for this year that is really going to blow your minds as soon as I can figure out how to properly put it together. But we definitely are going to be doing some new things. I was talking to. Oh, for sure there is, but I'll have to talk to you about it because I found something else. But there's going to be some things that we are going to have some real life film study as we are going through the show.
I was going to get the damn Al Davis projector.
Well, we're doing it 1920, buddy. We're doing it in
no, we're getting over here, projected up in this Mickey flick. Let's go.
Taking it all the way back to 1960, bro.
Yeah, I think the best way to do things is to try to enlighten and educate folks, even if we got to force feed it down. I need our fan base to really understand this game, this new generation of the game. I'm always looking for this, and this, but it's not that anymore. I want you guys to get it. I'm tired of you guys getting fed misinformation, and it's throwing you guys off like, oh, well, we heard this. Well, that's going on, and they're saying it, and it's not even true. And it has you guys so ramped up and angry, you're ready to fucking burn down the damn stadium and shit.
And it's a nice stadium.
Yeah, seriously, it's comfortable seats. Oh, my God. Oh.
The press booth is incredible. You been in the press booth yet?
You been in the locker room yet?
We went outside. We were outside of it. I didn't go in it.
Fantastic.
I didn't pay the tour money.
I ain't paid no tour money. But my whole thing is I'm tired of you guys being fed misinformation.
We are tired of you being fed misinformation.
I'm tired of you guys getting worked up and angry over shit that ain't even fucking true. Or you getting half-assed the story. I'm tired of that shit. I'm tired of it all. Because you guys deserve better. You deserve to know the fucking truth. You deserve to have a full understanding of what is going on. Hey, do your thing. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's clean. Oh my gosh. So like that carpet. Oh, you could stop, drop, and roll on the carpet. Damn.
Big Red. What's up, Red? He gonna go cry in the car. Watch.
My grandmother gave me that chain.
But we really, this is the unfiltered truth. We're not gonna lie to you. We're not gonna make shit up. We're not gonna run with a narrative. If something happens, if we say something, it's because what we heard. We go digging, we do our homework, we do our due diligence, we run the phones, we call, we make contacts, we get turned down, we gotta dig through this. This shit ain't easy. It is time consuming, but we do it all for you. Because here at the Unfiltered Truth, we do what we do because you deserve better.
Other than that, that's Robinson. I'm Jones. This is the Unfiltered Truth. Subscribe. Come on and subscribe if you want more of that good truth. Subscribe, baby.
And donate to the UNME Foundation. The UNME Foundation. The UNME Foundation.
You heard?
But as he said, he's Jones. I'm Robinson. This is the Unfiltered Truth. We appreciate your time. like, subscribe, like, subscribe, and become members. Become one of the unfiltered. And with that, we out.